Kelly Mick, thank you for the shout out on Pop Tarts. I've already had one today. I've already had one today. Hi, gang. Um, 3 or 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I wish I could remember with better precision, but 3 to 4 years ago, I remember on a Thursday or a Friday doing my CNN preparation and having my executive producer, Catherine Brousseau, say to me, "Hey, we need to be ready for the potential passing of Jimmy Carter." There was a belief at that time that the end was near. And she said to me, there's already a network package that is ready to roll. So if he passes while you're on air, you're going to toss to the package. There's a possibility that if he passes in advance of your show, that you'll get bumped and Wolf Blitzer will come in and just take control of the programming because CNN will go all in on the passing of the former president. And here we are yesterday, having reached the age of 100 and having voted by mail for Kamala Harris. Now he passes. I've been thinking about that since learning the news. And it's just interesting how long he defied the odds. I guess that's the point that I wanted to make. How long he defied the odds. And I think about that day when I was told, be prepared. Peter Baker has a nice reflection in the New York Times today that Mark Halpern also singled out. Just 3 paragraphs, if I may. He said, Jimmy Carter left office in 1981 as one of the most unpopular presidents in modern times, defeated for re-election and seemingly doomed to be remembered by posterity as a failed commander-in-chief with little to show for his 4 years in office. And then there's a quote, history will treat him more kindly than the American people did on November 4. Clark M. Clifford, the longtime consigliere of presidents and one of the Capitol's so-called wise men, pronounced at the time. Then, having softened the blow, he added the shiv. But there was nothing epical about his presidency, nothing really remarkable. And then Peter Baker says, by the time that Mr. Carter died on Sunday, more than 40 years later, though, the first part of Mr. Clifford's judgment appeared more salient. While not epical, Mr. Carter's presidency is now treated more kindly by many historians, a reassessment fueled not just by what he did in office, but what he did after leaving office. Mr. Carter is still held out as a totem of failure by Republicans, still an attack line against Democrats like President Biden, but the passions of the 70s have cooled, and the 39th president's reputation has been helped to some extent by the travails of those who followed him into the Oval Office. In the newsletter today, I did a lot of reading in terms of Jimmy Carter's legacy. I didn't want to just have a story leading the newsletter today that said that Carter was gone at 100, because obviously by the time the newsletter is dispatched, everybody knows that. So I wanted there to be a better think piece, and Lawrence Wright, who's been a guest of mine, Lawrence Wright, whose home base is writing for The New Yorker, has, I think, a terrific essay about a 2001 visit that he made to Plains, Georgia, to meet Jimmy and Rosalind Carter because he was contemplating writing a play about the Carters, which he did. And so he visits with the Carters in their living room, tours the Plains community, looks at the family cemetery, looks at the home where he grew up, and just takes you on this tour of Carter world that I think is terrific. So if you're looking for more on President Carter today, check out the #1 story in my newsletter. And I think you'll learn things. I certainly did. The college football playoffs, thank you to my friends at Parks Casino. The college football playoffs are off and running. Pro football playoffs not far behind. Detroit Pro Football plays tonight. I'm losing track of days. It's a Monday. They're a 3.5-point favorite at San Francisco. Detroit's got a record of 13 wins and just 2 losses. Philly, of course, won yesterday. Dallas, pitiful. The Birds now have a record of 13 wins and 3 losses. So there's a lot of great action on the pro side of the ledger. And then college football, Here come the quarterfinals, December 31st through January 1, the semifinals, January 9 and 10. By the way, the Carter funeral is going to be on Thursday the 9th. And then the CFP National Championship, the College Football National Championship, January 20, Inauguration Day. Whether your team scores or not, there's always another way to win on the Play Gun Lake online casino and sportsbook app in Michigan, or the Bet Parks app in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Maryland. Bet Parks and Play Gun Lake, the only apps that I use and recommend. Have some skin in the game when there's downtime. Take advantage of it. Play blackjack, craps, poker, roulette, hot online slots. A lot of fun stuff. I love those hot online slots based on the movie Ted or Rocky, or the TV shows Peaky Blinders and Breaking Bad. Have some fun. PlayGunLake.com for BetParks.com for details. You've got to be 21 and in Michigan for Play Gun Lake, 21 and in PA, or Michigan for the BetParks app. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So on this Monday, thank you, Danny Savalos, for covering the fort for me today on radio. I wanted to address Joe Biden's legacy. I wanted to talk about President Biden's legacy, and specifically, since we were last together over the weekend, a lot has been written, but one piece that caused a buzz is a Tyler Pager assessment of President Biden's legacy from the Washington Post. Headline: Joe Biden's lonely battle to sell his vision of American democracy. And it opens with a scene of Representative James Clyburn, who played such a critical role for Biden in South Carolina in the 2020 election. You remember Biden was doing poorly in the primaries, and then came the firewall in South Carolina. He makes a trip to the White House to deliver a message to Biden that he needed to revitalize his campaign. And that's sort of the opening salvo for a discussion about how Biden was ill-suited in many respects for selling his successes while president. He's just an old school guy in a world that's undergoing great change, and none more so than in the media world. Then the piece further along says this article is based on interviews with more than 24 people close to Biden. It reveals the ways in which his theory of how to succeed in an era of American politics dominated by Trump fell apart in the final phase of the presidency, and how he has been publicly and privately rethinking whether he should have handled some decisions differently. So in his final days, it's an introspective Joe Biden. Biden has taken to acknowledging some strategic mistakes, both big and small. Many of those missteps resulted from his determination to restore the age-old rules of American presidencies after Trump's term. And then there's this: Biden acknowledges that he screwed up in his June 27 debate against Trump as he struggled to put together sentences and defended his policies that his rival held forth as a series of falsehoods and called him a criminal. Wait a minute. Biden acknowledged that he, quote unquote, screwed up in his June 27. He didn't screw up in his June 27 debate, right? It's not as if he made well, I'm thinking in Carter terms, so I'll go back in time. It's not as if he made a Carter like, a Gerald Ford like mistake and saying there's never been Soviet domination of Eastern Europe. There was not a screw up. There was not a faux pas. There was not a line or a factual statement that he made. It's that time caught up with him. Time caught up with him in that June debate. That's what happened. What else in the story? I'm building to something, so just give me a sec. Also in this Tyler Pager assessment based on a lot of interviews in terms of how President Biden is now looking at what went wrong. One of his failings, he says, is that he should have picked somebody other than Merrick Garland, probably Doug Jones, the former Democratic senator from Alabama. And it talks about how some around him wanted it to be Jones, some wanted to be Merrick Garland. He went with Garland, but what does Biden now think about Merrick Garland? Something that you heard from Ellie Honig and me on many, many occasions, which is that Merrick Garland moved too slowly. Jack Smith didn't move too slowly. Merrick Garland moved too slowly. And then there's this. Had the Justice Department moved faster to prosecute Trump for allegedly seeking to overturn the 2020 election and mishandling of classified documents, they say the former president might have faced a politically damaging trial before the election. And I think that's probably true. If Garland had moved more quickly, and what did Merrick Garland need to see? If Merrick Garland had a television set on January 6th, he saw enough to know that there was likely criminal conduct on the part of the former president on January 6th. But he delayed and delayed and delayed. Okay. And then this brings me to today's poll question on the 30th of December, 2024. Biden and some of his aides still believe he should have stayed in the race despite the rocky debate performance and low poll numbers that prompted Democrats to pressure him to drop out. Biden and these aides have told people in recent days he could have defeated Trump. Joe Biden believes that he could have defeated Donald Trump. Okay, let me just stop for a moment and ask for flash returns right now. Thumbs up if you believe Joe Biden could have defeated Donald Trump. Show it to me. Show it to me right now. I want to see, are there any thumbs up from those of you who are live with me right now? Any of you who believe right now? Robert Eaton Novak, no. John Ruths, no. Kate Kelly, no. RS, no. Falcon Steph, Debbie, okay, wow. Anybody? Oh, thumbs up, Susan Engel. Okay, some of you are like me. You can't find that thumbs up button, so you just type it out. That's kind of funny. Wow, whoa, 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 whoa. Sean Williams, David Reed, Sue-Ann Engel, you think yes. Jamal, no, 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 no. Okay, CKC, cannot find the darn button, but still no. Exactly can't find the thumbs up, says Susan. Right, okay, I get it. Well, well, we're in agreement. He couldn't have won. He could not have won. Do you want to quickly, may I quickly give you my attempt at logic as to why that's the case? I don't think that Biden could have defeated Trump because in the end, it was an election about immigration, the economy, and condescension, right? It was immigration for obvious reasons, the economy, or at least the perception of the economy, and then the condescension, the continued condescension of the Trump voters, as in, you can't possibly vote for him. You know, he's done X, Y, and Z, and the browbeating became so intense that I think there was blowback to it. All of those would have remained if Biden had stayed in, plus there would have been heightened attention on his frailty. See, I think what some people are forgetting is that the moment President Biden dropped out and passed that torch to Vice President Harris, Biden was in the rearview mirror. And not even Fox was showing his stumbles or faux pas or manner of speak or other evidence of his frailty on a loop the way that they had been. Nobody cared now. Now it was all about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. We stopped talking about him the minute he got out and she got in. And he got out for a reason. He got out because he didn't just have a bad night. He got out because all of a sudden people now had an opportunity to see him for what he had become, at least on that day. Since the election, there have been stories now. There's been reporting by Axios. There's been reporting by the Wall Street Journal. There's been reporting by the Washington Post. Annie Linsky from the Wall Street Journal has been my guest both on radio and television right before, I signed off for the year. And the Wall Street Journal threw a lot of people at their story recently, and they had done it before the debate. And there was huge blowback against the Journal for writing about how the White House was managing an older Joe Biden. I'll put it very delicately. Well, here's my point. My point is that after the June debate, when Biden got out and Harris gets in, Biden is forgotten. All the way up until Harris loses the election. And now as it's the waning days of the Biden administration, now outlets that didn't want to or weren't willing to write about Biden's frailties, now they are, as part of sort of the wind down of his administration. What's your point, Michael? My point is that if Biden had stayed in the race after that disastrous debate, there would have been continual reporting about all age-related matters pertaining to Joe Biden. So if he'd stayed in, the type of reporting that we're seeing now would have come out in the fall, not after the election. I don't think that either of these two candidates, Kamala Harris with more time, it's not that she only had 107 days. That was to her benefit. That was to her advantage, not to her detriment. Neither of these candidates could have defeated Donald Trump. Why? Because in the end, it was about immigration, the economy, and condescension. And I don't think that either of them, and now here's my kicker. Here's my kicker. And if you said to me, okay, then who could have defeated Trump? My answer is no one that I can think of. I cannot give you a name. If you have a name and you want to give me a name, go ahead, give me the name and put it there. And if I don't shout it out now, Nancy Lawrence says Josh Shapiro maybe. I don't know, Nancy. I don't know. I think that Josh Shapiro's time will come, and that to have been the vice presidential candidate this time around would have been a good thing for him. But I don't know that he was ready then. And even if he were ready then, it's still immigration, the economy, and this pent-up rage by Trump voters, and some not likely to be Trump voters because they'd been so told they couldn't possibly vote for Trump. It's like a parenting thing. Sometimes the more that you're telling them they can't do this and they can't do that, then they go do it. But I've run through all the usual suspects, and I cannot identify. I cannot identify for you someone that, Gavin Newsom, Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, AOC. You give me any of those names, and I in the end come back after I wrestle with it. I come back and I say, no, I don't think so. I think it still would have been Trump. It still would have been Trump. But to the poll question today, could Joe Biden have defeated Donald Trump? No way. No way. He did not. The premise is that he had a bad night in the debate. No, I know what it's like. You know what it's like to just not be on top of your game on a particular day. But that's not what we were dealing with on that evening. And all of the reporting that we're seeing now, we would have seen sooner. We would have seen sooner about the current commander-in-chief. Anyway, that's my answer. That is my answer to today's poll question. I don't think Kamala's going to run again. I think Kamala's going to run for governor. If she wants to stay in, she ought to run for governor. If she wants to stay in, she ought to run for governor of California and try and put together 4 or 8 good years. That's what I think too. Is there anyone clamoring for Kamala? Like, oh my gosh, it's got to be Kamala again. I don't sense it. I don't sense it. So, hey, one final thing, if I may, before I say so long for the day. So, I hope you got to watch Saturday, my book club special on CNN. I really got a kick out of it. After we were together here for an extended time period, I went and watched it. And then I was mistaken. I thought we had put on my YouTube channel the entire pilot, which is about 14 minutes long, that back in 2006, I did with CNN as a potential television show. That's what gave the idea of doing the book club pilot on Saturday. I was mistaken. We had only published like 60 seconds worth. So yesterday in the newsletter and posted today on my YouTube page is the entirety of the pilot. 13, 14 minutes long. Please check it out. And remember the backstory. This was me as a legal analyst and frequent guest on CNN nearly 20 years ago when they say to me, "Hey, we don't know what to do with you, but we're interested in having you host a show. What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to do a book club." And then I specced out what the pilot would look like, and we did it. We did it. It was terrific. And Nelson DeMille, as a favor to me, came in and participated as my lead guest, and we also had two other guests. You'll see the whole concept. But if you want to watch it, including the opening sequence where I'm walking down Market Street in Philadelphia, right in front of Reading Terminal at 13th Street, because I couldn't get my lines straight in the interior of Reading Terminal, and I was getting like a workout from the fishmonger behind a counter, or the butcher. I can't remember which. So finally, we had to take it out on the street, and after a lot of takes, I finally said what I was supposed to say. It was very difficult, and I was very nervous. But you'll get a laugh out of it, I think. I think you'll get it'd make a great show. It would make a great show. Okay, please, even though you told me your answer to today's poll question, and even though we're all in agreement on this, go vote nonetheless on the question of whether Joe Biden could have defeated Donald Trump. Okay? Gang, have a great day. And my intention is to be back here tomorrow, same bat time, same bat station. All right? Have a wonderful day. It's nice and warm in the Northeast. A little overcast and rainy, but it's a nice day nonetheless. See you, team.